Avoidance of potential and growth looks different in different people. Some don't actively avoid their potential, they reason against it. Not even consciously, subtly, in ways that sound responsible. They tell themselves that they're being realistic, that the timing isn't right, that other people are involved so it's not really up to them, and that there are moving pieces that they can't control. And actually, none of that is false. And that's what makes this particular style of avoidance so convincing. What's harder to notice is the pattern underneath, the way that clarity itself can become a buffer against change, how intelligence can be used not to move forward, but to stay just far enough away from being challenged. This isn't self-sabotage in the dramatic sense. It is the self-protective part of you dressed up as thoughtful reason. We see this most often in people who are already clever, capable, educated, reflective, and self-aware. People whose minds are strong enough to build convincing arguments, including arguments against their own momentum and uncertainty and risk. And that brings me to a delightful man we worked with who had already made real breakthroughs. He could see his patterns clearly, he could name them, he was articulate about his tendency to outsource his own agency, and it would sound something like, well, I would, but I couldn't because my wife needed, or, well, I would, but I had to cave because my business partners, or I would have, except I didn't really have the choice because, and every reason made sense. Every explanation was believable, and none of them were lies. But when we zoomed back with him and looked at that pattern over time, something became really obvious. He wasn't going even one full day without a reason why he couldn't do what he said was important to him. Not one day. So this wasn't chaos of just things coming up. It was consistency, just not the kind that he thought. What was happening wasn't a lack of intelligence or awareness. If anything, it was the opposite. He was very good at thinking his way around the edges of his own potential, very good at explaining why now wasn't the moment, why the conditions weren't right, why something external needed to be resolved first. His mind stayed busy, and so it felt like growth. But the body, the life, stayed still, so nothing really shifted. This is a particular move that the sage, the somatic skin, the sage makes under pressure, especially when challenge gets close to their sense of self-identity. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, or this feels like a stretch, or I don't even know if I'm ready, the system produces reasons, clean ones, responsible ones, ones that sound thoughtful and adult. This is how authorship gets outsourced without looking like avoidance. The words say yes. The body says no. And the person genuinely believes the words. Now, I should have mentioned this earlier, but before we go further, I want to pause us for a moment. Because if you're listening and you're recognizing yourself or you're curious about these patterns, it can help to first see how your nervous system tends to organize when something actually matters or your self-identity is on the line. So pause this video, go down to the description. We have a short somatic skins quiz that reflects your body's default pattern under pressure. Whether you move into analysis, adaptation, force, or disappearance or steadiness, it's a mirror for how your system leads before you decide anything consciously. So take that and then come back. Okay, back to this pattern. At a certain point with this particular gentleman, we stopped engaging with the reasons. This wasn't to be harsh. It was to be of true service to his potential, why he hired us, not his current level of comfort. We introduced a simple constraint, no excuses. But we gamified it, so we had a fun way that we did this with him to remove any form of this excuse smokescreen. You see, every client is met with the same level of support, truth, and care. Tools are offered, practices are shared, the mirror is held steadily. What happens next is up to the person in front of us. And for some, this kind of mirror is catalytic. When the explanations stop, their agency comes alive. The body steps forward, actions follow clarity instead of replacing it, and real change occurs. For other people, the mirror is uncomfortable. They see the split between what they say and what they do, and they decide not to stay in that level of contact with truth. So they'll renegotiate, they'll disengage, or they'll leave. Coherence always requires choice to meet honesty. In this case, when the explanations stopped working, something else became visible. He didn't want to just improve some metrics or hit some targets. He wanted to become his real dream, the vision of the man he knew was inside of him. Not metaphorically, literally. And again, after admitting this, he verbally committed to this next level. But that verbal yes didn't make it into his calendar or his plans, because once again, a new level of identity was being invoked by his vision. And so the old pattern resurfaced. My friends are visiting this week. I didn't see it in time. I was out of town. Again, all true, and again, the same split. But we could catch it faster. And so again, the mirror was given and the moment of truth to choose. And this is where it's really important as performance coaches or somatic practitioners to be precise, because the issue just wasn't fear, like feel the fear and do it anyways. Feeling nervous or uncertain isn't actually coherence. Avoiding contact with that fear by use of reason in this case was. Incoherence shows up when the body opts out and the mind keeps saying yes, or vice versa. Coherence doesn't mean forcing yourself forward. It means being able to speak and hold a real yes or a real no. So sometimes coherence sounds like, I'm a no. This isn't important to me right now. Sometimes it sounds like, I'm a yes and I'm scared and I'm choosing it anyways and maybe would appreciate support. Sometimes it sounds like, I want this, but yeah, I haven't organized my life to support it. All of these are coherent. What isn't coherent is saying yes while living a no. And I've seen this pattern in business leaders who insist that their work is the most important thing in their life, while their body tells a different story. Distraction, drain, avoidance, disinterest. I don't know why it's not growing. The answer is simple. Even when it's uncomfortable, one of the signals has to change. Either the words need to become more honest, or the body and life structure needs to reorganize to match it. The sage specifically furthers their development not by becoming smarter, but by letting clarity descend into embodiment. By allowing fear, uncertainty, the feeling that they don't have all of the answers or they don't yet know the point, that kind of challenge to be felt and to choose the aim anyway. This was the point of the example I gave. Not that everyone who sees the mirror will change, but that the next point of coherence is always available. I do want to be clear, this isn't necessarily about excuses being bad or discipline being good. It's about alignment. It's about noticing where intelligence has become a buffer instead of a bridge, where clarity has replaced contact, and where explanation has replaced choice. For practitioners and coaches who work with the mind and body, this matters. If you have a sage client, they will convince you that they need more clarity or a better strategy. They will have self-identified labels and reflections, all to justify what's happening. This kind of client doesn't need more insight or better reasoning. They need help restoring coherence between the mind and the body, between word and action, which may feel for them at first like not listening to the mind. And they'll fight you for it. If you're listening to this discussion not as a coach or fellow practitioner, but for yourself, it might be worth reflecting, specifically if you are a sage in your nervous system pattern. Where are you saying yes with your mouth, but no with your actions? Where are you using reasoning to reason against your own potential versus using it to enhance a powerful direction towards what you want? Where are you using clarity to avoid contact with felt challenge or that bad feeling of not capable, and instead choosing growth anyway? When coherence returns, your power does too, the grounded kind, the kind that doesn't need reasons. If you want to explore this work more deeply, there are 2 ways to do that. One is through our books, The Somatic Skins and Becoming the Grand Formidable. Both you can find links in the description below. These map patterns, how nervous systems organize under pressure, how clarity, leadership, and integrity emerge when the body and the mind agree. The other way to deepen into this work is by joining us for a season inside of the Prestige, where this isn't just talked about, it's practiced with tools, simulators, support, and others like you on this path. Our next season is rolling out soon, so depending on when you're watching this, now is the time to reach out so we can connect. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for staying with me. It means a lot. If you enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. It helps us create more for those who can benefit. I'll see you next time.